back from lunch. I hope everyone is doing well. We've got an awesome session coming up at this hour or couple of hours. But before we begin, I want to welcome to the stage Dr. Roger E. Hartley, Dean of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore, where yours truly resides. He currently also serves as chair of the Commission on Peer Review and Accreditation, also known as COPA. This year, he arrived at the University of Baltimore in the summer of 2015, just a month before I did. He was born and raised in Cross Lanes, West Virginia, and like many of our students at the University of Baltimore, he too is a first-generation college graduate. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Public Affairs, focusing on metropolitan development in Indiana University O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. He earned his master's and PhD in political science from the University of Georgia, home for me. And he has been a leader in various university settings. And I will not belabor the point. I will just introduce to you my dean, Dr. Roger Hartley.
Kelechi, thank you so very much. I really appreciate the invitation to give and the opportunity to give a few remarks at the beginning, well, not beginning, midstream of this fantastic conference. I wanted to start by welcoming each and every one of you. Probably again, I know you received some welcome remarks from our president, Kurt Schmoke, yesterday, but I wanted to join on behalf of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore, our entire University of Baltimore, in welcoming each of you to this extremely great conference and wonderful organization. I want to begin by, if no one has done it yet, and I hope they have already, by thanking Kelechi. I want to say how impressive, how marvelous, and how grateful we are that you chose to bring this conference to the University of Baltimore and to allow us to have the opportunity to host it. You have put tremendous work into this conference, building it, and I just wanted to say wonderful work, good job, and we are all absolutely grateful to you. I also want to extend some remarks and thanks as well to the board of COMPA, and also to, especially just because I get to do this, to our faculty, staff, and students and alums who are here with us today from the University of Baltimore as well. This is the College of Public Affairs is an urban engaged institution in the heart of the city of Baltimore. And like many of the institutions represented here at COMPA, although there are many others that represent different parts of the nation and world, we are a minority serving institution. We are predominantly Black serving institution by designation of the U.S. Department of Higher Ed. As Kelechi mentioned, our student body is significantly diverse, but it's also majority first-generation college students. They are working adults. They are managing work. They are managing family. They are managing many, many things, but they're also managing the courses of Dr. Uzochukwu and my colleagues as well. What that means to me is having the privilege of leading this college for a little over 7 years is that our students are fantastic, amazing, and they balance a lot of difficult things in life all at once to obtain their degrees. They also are the future of public service, and they are also very important to the workforce, as the workforce says that they are. Our college is diverse. It contains schools of public and international affairs, a school of health and human services, the School of Criminal Justice, and 2 magnificent centers, one that is devoted to drug policy and prevention, and a second that is the Schaefer Center for Public Policy. One of the things we love about the University of Baltimore, but also each of you as my colleagues, is your dedication to public service in each region of this state, in the nation, and around the world. As practitioners and leaders, you are devoting your energies to making life better for people. And as a member and a leader of, as you mentioned, Kelechi, of COPA for NASPA, the Commission on Peer Review and Accreditation, one of our most important standards is the focus of this conference. It is standard 5, and it is that we are charged with teaching our students to become leaders who can lead and manage in a diverse and changing workforce. Every program in the United States that applies and receives NASPA accreditation must not only demonstrate that they're committed to this standard, but they are reviewed and they create plans and they manage those plans to achieve that. I feel like higher education has moved and has moved strongly in the right direction of helping us create a workforce that is balanced and that includes the talents of each and every individual who wants to lead in public service with quality, but also with diversity. But it's also true that our standards and our work all across this nation in colleges like ours and programs like ours around the nation, it's also very important about that piece of governance. Building a government and a nonprofit sector that is not only inclusive, but values that inclusivity in the business of governance, so that people who are marginalized are part of that process, and people who are strong and leading are also part of that process, and that racism has no place in our society, but also has especially no place in our government and its work. And I am very proud of the NASPA schools. I'm very proud of ASPA and NAPA and many of our other organizations like the Volcker Alliance that support public service for their incredibly hard work in helping us achieve that. I wanted to say a couple more words, and I know that you're really also here to work with each other, to provide fellowship with each other, and also to hear today from our special guest who will be introduced by Kelechi very soon, Mr. Van Jones of CNN. I know we are all excited about that, but I also wanted to just say a couple more words that I think is important. I was very inspired by an article that was written several years back in the Chronicle of Higher Education by President Weymouth Spence of Washington Adventist University. And he laid down a very important challenge. He was reflecting upon, first of all, the fact that one of the biggest barriers to inclusion in the workforce, in the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector is the fact of a racist legacy and history in this nation that has led to people with networks and power and with wealth to be able to have first access to jobs. And he pointed out also first access to internships, which lead people to those jobs. He, like us at the University of Baltimore, are champions of paid internships. Paid internships are in fact, or I should say unpaid internships, in fact, have been proven over and over again to marginalize people and to lead to an inclusive workforce. Leading people who do not have the means to accept an internship to have that access. But President Spence went one step further. He said, it is our duty as colleges and universities, it is our duty as employers to find and recruit the best and brightest students for our internships and our jobs, not just from the elite higher ed institutions that often have that built-in advantage and or even pipeline to those internships and jobs. It is our duty to not just go down that road for our students and our workforce, but to reach out to institutions deeply like Washington Adventist, University of Baltimore, and our colleges and universities across the nations that are HBCU, MSI, and or that serve working adults so that they can not only find and attract, but encourage the workforce that they so openly say that they wish to achieve. It was a hard-hitting piece, and it was a very inspiring piece. And one of the things that I have to say is that my team here at the College of Public Affairs and at the University of Baltimore takes that very seriously. And so does our Career and Internship Center, my colleagues over there. we knock on doors first. We don't wait for them to come to us. We knock on doors first, and we tell them about our students and their opportunities and their amazing work. And we ask them to include us in their internship programs, and we ask them to send us their jobs. And you know what they do? Sometimes it takes a little bit of extra effort for us to build those networks that are denied to individuals. And when those networks are built, there's a pathway to public service, there's a pathway to opportunity, and for those employers, a pathway to an incredible group of people who are ready to lead and will lead in a wonderful way. With that, I want to say to each and every one of you, I am very, very pleased to be here. I thank you for your service to the public. I thank you for your passion. And I also want to say welcome from the University of Baltimore and its College of Public Affairs. Kelechi, thank you again. Thank you to you and your team. And I wish you all a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Roger. I appreciate your coming and maybe sticking around. I know you've got lots you're doing constantly. So thank you for your time. All right, so I would like to introduce you all to a very special speaker. Born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee, Mr. Van Jones earned his Bachelor's of Science in Communication and Political Science from the University of Tennessee at Martin, and his Juris Doctorate from Yale Law School. Today, Mr. Jones is a CNN host and regular contributor, an Emmy Award-winning producer, social equity advocate, a 3-time New York Times bestselling author. You've got to give me some writing tips. And a world-class communicator of world-class ideas. He has been a key player in some of the most important social and political movements of our time. If you have not heard him speak and the fire in which he speaks, then you have been in a coma for quite some time. Outside of his roles at CNN and host of Amazon music podcast Uncommon Ground, Mr. Jones has a rare track record in this modern era of bringing people together to do things, to do hard things in areas as diverse as clean energy solutions, criminal justice reform, and racial inclusion in the tech sector. In 2007, Van was the primary champion of the Green Jobs Act, signed into law by George W. Bush. In 2009, he worked in the Obama White House as a special advisor for green jobs. In 2018, he helped pass the First Step Act, which the New York Times calls the most substantial breakthrough in criminal justice in this generation. In 2021, Jones was the one of the first 2 recipients of Jeff Bezos' Courage and Civility Award. Over the past 25 years, Van has founded and led many successful social enterprises, including Reform Alliance, Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, Color of Change, Green for All, and the Dream Corps. He worked with the late great Prince to launch #YesWeCode, now known as Dream Corps Tech, to get jobs in the tech sector for scores of low opportunity young people. Friends, his bio can go on and on. There's so much more I could say about this man. So today, I'd just like to welcome our special guest. Join me in welcoming him, and you will soon see why I sought after him for this particular session. Welcome, Mr. Van Jones, to your very first COMPA experience.
Well, it's an honor. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate all the kind words. You know, we do what we can for our community, and I was lucky to be able to go to public schools in the rural South. I was born in 1968, and that was the year they killed Bobby Kennedy. That was the year they killed Dr. King. That was the year they beat a bunch of students bloody at the Democratic Convention in Chicago who just wanted peace. they were trying to kill hope in America the year I was born. And so I learned about that stuff when I was in grade school in Jackson, Tennessee, Alexander Elementary School, Tigrit Middle School, Jackson Central Mary High School, and then University of Tennessee at Martin, as you said, all public schools in the South. And, I saw close up the difference that like single scholarship could make for someone, a kid like me. A single teacher, I had a teacher, an African-American teacher named Ollie Curry, sixth grade teacher, saw me sitting in the back of the class, big glasses, skinny, getting bullied by everybody, and took me under the wing and encouraged me. And so, the work that we do, the people that we care about, the chances that we take, the beneficiaries of it, sometimes never get a chance to say thank you. I'll never get a chance to say thank you to Miss Ollie Curry. Never get a chance to say thank you to whoever it was that got me made those scholarships available for University of Tennessee. Never be able to say thank you to whoever fought at Yale Law School to make sure that Black kids from public schools in the South could have a chance. I had great grades, I had good LSAT score, but somebody fought to say, hey, let's look for the University of Tennessee at Martin kids. Let's look for the public school kids. Somebody, I'll never thank them. The only thing I can do is to pay it forward by trying to make sure that other people benefit from the same things that were benefiting me.
Wow. Thank you. Well, that's the end, everybody. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So I do want to start with just an easy question. Let's just get comfortable here. Where did the name Van come from?
I made it up.
Okay.
Yeah. My name is Anthony Jones.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah. My dad's middle name is Anthony. My father was Willie Anthony Jones. And he was born in 1944 in segregation and poverty in Memphis, Tennessee. I grew up in a place called Orange Mound, Memphis. You know anything about Memphis? That's the hood. In fact, my dad grew up in what you would call today a shotgun shack. Now, some of you guys may not know what that means. When you're so poor, you can only buy a parcel of land that's fairly narrow. So when you build on that land, each room on your house is directly behind the other room. So you could fire a shotgun in the front door and hit everybody in the house. That's what's called a shotgun shack, shotgun style shack. So my father grew up on that Cable Street. And if you ever go to Memphis, Cable Street, it's been torn down, but you can see the neighborhood. Good people, strong families, very poor. So my father joined the military to get out of poverty. Now he's born in 44. That means everybody else was trying to get out of the military in the 60s. My dad was trying to get in so he could do better by his family. And when he got out of the military, he put himself through college, went to a small Black college called Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, married the college president's daughter, my mother, because my dad had it like that. He knew what he was doing.
Okay.
And so I was born in Jackson, Tennessee, me and my twin sister. And my father named me Anthony because he didn't like Willie. He thought Willie was too country. So he wanted Anthony to be my name. And then, my mother worked to put other relatives through college. His little brother he put through college, a cousin he put through college, or they put through college. Basically, everybody who got out of poverty in my family got out of poverty in some way or another on this bridge called my father's back. He did everything he could to get his family out of poverty through education and hard work. And when he died, the photograph that they put on the funeral program, on the cover, was my dad standing in front of Yale Law School the day I graduated with his hands in the air. Wow. And that was one of his biggest triumphs. And he said, look, you're a 9th generation American, but you're the first one in our family that was born with all your rights. You were born in 68. You're the first one in 9 generations born with all your rights. And look at what you've done. He said, they wouldn't even let me pick up litter on Yale's campus. And here you are graduating with the big folks kids. Now, what he told me was, that's great. But he says, there's 2 kinds of smart people. You're with these smart rich kids. There are 2 kinds of smart people. There's smart people who take very simple things and make them sound very complicated so they can seem important, so they can seem impressive. But the other smart people are the people who take complicated stuff, make it sound simple, so other people can feel important and other people can feel that they understand what's going on. He says, you come back to my house, be that second kind of smart guy.
There you
And
go.
so I've always tried. Now you have to work twice as hard, as you guys know. You have to first understand all the complicated stuff, and then you have to understand how to break it down to the community level, how you break it down to the asphalt level, how you break it down to that student level who doesn't come from a background where every word has 20 syllables in it. How do you understand it at the level of the polysyllabic intellectual, but then break it down for the barbershop? That's that extra work that we do as people who care about communities that don't have as much. And anyway, so that's a long story to say, I had a problem with my name. And my problem is very simple. It is when you say Anthony Jones, the automatic nickname on that is going to be Tony. So I'm going to be Tony Jones. And when I went to college, I weighed about 30 pounds less than I do right now. I was as skinny as a rake. If I turned sideways, I disappeared. So I knew that once I hit that college dorm, I was going to go from Tony Jones to Bony Tony. And I couldn't live with that. I could see it. I knew the mind of my fellow young men. And I had to come up with some nickname myself that was going to be something I could live with, because I wanted to be a journalist. I figured, okay, I got to be a reporter. And all my favorite people were Prince, one syllable name, Sting, one syllable name, Cher, one syllable name. So I got to come up with one syllable for my name. And I was like, I'm going to be Jet Jones. Nah, I'm too slow. I'm going to be Rush Jones. Nah, I'm too slow. So I just kept, and I finally Van Jones. That sounds good. You can't really, no reason that you can't make it shorter. And you can't turn it into anything. It's going to be an insult. So I went into the dorm. I said, I'm Van Jones. And it's kind of been my name ever since, but my driver's license says Anthony Jones.
Okay. Okay. That is very creative. So you have always had that in you. It seems it didn't just come. So you've actually gone into a second question that I had, which is, did you know this is where you are going to land? Take us through that journey to where you are now. We have lots of students and we have lots of professionals who are still thinking through what they want their journey to look like towards a destination. Take us through how, because we see your destination, it may not be where you actually, I'm sure you're still moving, but take us through that journey to get to the Van Jones that we know today.
Well, I've gone through a lot of different changes and transformations, as you do in life. But the through line that's been consistent was I always knew I wanted to try to finish Dr. King's work. Even as a child, when I was in second grade, third grade, we had these things called weekly readers in those days, these little newspapers that they gave to children. And they would have different stories and history and different things like that. And anytime they had a story about the Kennedy brothers, Bobby Kennedy or John Kennedy, or Dr. King, I would get my little round scissors and I would cut it out and I would take it home. And I had a little cork board in my bedroom, and I wrote KS, meaning Kennedy section, King section. And so even as a child, people say, well, how did you get interested? It's the same with somebody who's interested in sports or interested in music or interested in whatever. Like some people, you put a bunch of things in front of a kid. That kid goes, grabs a football. That kid goes and grabs a trumpet. I went and grabbed the books. But for whatever reason, I felt, and it doesn't make any sense, but I felt since I was born in 68, and Dr. King was killed in 68, I somehow had some responsibility to carry on his work. It makes no sense, but that's how a child can sometimes think. So I've always known that I wanted to be of service. I always know I wanted to stick up. And then also when you're bullied, as I was, you definitely have a heart for the underdog. You have a big heart for the underdog. And I was such a skinny kid, and I was, such a nerdy kid, and so awkward. I had a speech impediment. I stammered, I stuttered, I had a lisp, I still have a lisp. And then all of a sudden, at some point, I'm 6'1". I remember, my dad was a big military guy. He'd been a cop in the military. I remember one time I was home for college. My dad was retiring from being an educator. He said, well, boy, you can get some of those suits out of my closet. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't wear your suits. You're a big dude, I'm a little dude. That wasn't college, it was law school. After law school. And I was doing public interest work in Oakland. He said, "We can have some of my suits now. I don't need my suits anymore." And I said, "Well, I can't wear it." And so then I put one of his jackets on, and not only did it fit me, it was almost a little bit too snug. And I suddenly realized, like, wow, I'm a big guy now. And my self-concept is still Urkel. I still see myself as this nerdy kid getting bullied around, but my dad was a big dude, and I can wear his 42 long jacket. So I had to accept, okay, I'm a big guy now. I can stand up for people. I can stick up for people now. I can be the protector, whereas before I was the prey. And so I have tried to, in my life, stick up for people. And people always say, "Well, man, I don't understand. You work in the hood, with urban youth, but you also have worked on Native American reservations. You've also worked in Appalachia with coal miners. You started something called INS Watch, which is INS was a federal agency that used to go after immigrants. Now it's called ICE, but it was called INS in the 90s. I started INS Watch to protect immigrants in the Mission District in San Francisco. Was in my 20s. Like, well, it doesn't make any sense. What are you doing? You're erratic. You're all over the place. Like I am trying to help the people who are being bullied by society, people who are being mistreated by society. Now everybody's talking about transgender issues. The first person to ever create a transgender rights organization standing up against police abuse and bad jail conditions? Van Jones. I helped to create an organization called Trans Action. That's pretty dope. I'm good with names. Called Trans Action back in the 90s in San Francisco, because transgender sex workers were being brutalized and mistreated. Frat boys would come into town, beat them up. Cops would beat them up. They'd throw them in jail in unsafe conditions. Somebody looks like a man wearing a dress gets into a jail, you know what's going to happen. And so we created an organization called Trans Action. My organization, Ellen Baker Center for Human Rights, combining with CUAV, Community United Against Violence, which is an LGBT organization. And we fought the SF County Jail to create safer housing conditions, and won. Those standards are still are being applied all around the world from that little fight we had when I was in my 20s in 1990s. So I am somebody, I hate to see somebody mistreated. I'm hearing some crazy sound anyway. Anyway, I hate to see somebody mistreated. And I just want to I want help. I want help, and I want to use my brains and my opportunities to help people. That's what I've been doing for 30 years now since I got out of law school.
Okay, I can see that we could.
Hey, I got to figure out what this sound. It's all.
Okay. Did you figure it out?
I don't know. It seems like maybe they left. I'm in a hotel room. Maybe somebody left their cell phone in here someplace. I'm hearing this buzzing. It's not my phone.
Oh, okay.
Look, we're all family here. I apologize.
Yeah, I thought it was a critter. I was about to start screaming for you.
No. I wouldn't have come back. Just.
Okay, as long as it's just a buzzing sound and not an animal. Okay. Yeah. So I did not know you had a twin sister. That is not supposed to be the conversation here, but are you guys similar in any way? Is she,
she is a social worker in my home county back in Jackson. So she works on the same issues, but she works on them one-on-one.
Yeah.
I've never been good at that. I'm more of an introvert. So I work on the policy level. She works on the personal level. She works directly with kids in trouble at a personal level. I work on the same issues at a policy level. So
I love it.
Yeah, we kind of bounce each other in that way. And I love her to death. And look, she's a lot. And here's reality, and everybody here knows this. She was smarter than I was, much more outgoing. I was so quiet and nerdy that I barely made a ripple in high school. She filled out my college applications for me. She argued with now this shows you how much has changed with computers and everything. But she got a scholarship to the University of Tennessee at Martin offered. I did not. She called up there and said, you
Wow.
give my brother a scholarship too. And then you could have a set of twins to put on in your pamphlet, and that would be good advertising.
Oh, wow.
And in those days, it wasn't, everything wasn't computerized or whatever. So somebody could just make that kind of decision. So I wound up going to school on my sister's affirmative action scholarship. It wasn't even mine. My
Wow.
sister got it, and then she argued for me to get it.
Wow.
And so, and then to have gone from there to again, I'm not dropping these names to impress anybody, but I'm just saying it is difficult to get from the edge of a small town in Jackson, Tennessee, to Yale Law School, to be able to teach at Princeton, to be a fellow at MIT. And yet, had it not been for an affirmative action scholarship at a public university and my sister's advocacy, none of that would have been possible for me. So I know for sure that, and then having gone to some of these elite institutions and even taught there, the difference between the people who get those opportunities and people who don't, it's a flip of a coin.
It is.
I've some of the smartest people I've ever met, and certainly the wisest people I've ever met, I didn't meet at Yale. I didn't meet at CNN. I didn't meet at the White House. I met in prisons. Some of the smartest and absolutely the wisest people I've ever met are people who made a mistake or a bad decision when they were 17, 18, 19 years old. And 20, 30 years later, they're in prison. And yet, if they had a more fair response to their poor decision making, they would be CEOs. They might be senators. Just because you do something dumb when you're 18 doesn't mean that you're not potentially, a Barack Obama or whoever else you like. And so I know they're before the grace of God, and I try to conduct myself in that way.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, and I'll open it up to our students. Take us through the young Van Jones, his very first activist experience. Go back deep in that brain of yours and tell us what you felt like. Was it organic? Was it planned out? Like, how did that happen? And how did it end?
Well, when I was at the University of Tennessee at Martin as an undergraduate in the late 80s, the big issues were South Africa and AIDS. Those were the big issues. And so we, at the University of Tennessee at Martin, we had a student ballot measure. Believe it or not, as I was in student government, I've been appointed to student government by a friend of mine. And we had a ballot measure saying we wanted for there to be condom machines in the dorms. Okay. We thought that was a good response to the AIDS crisis. Now, this is in the buckle of the Bible Belt in the Reagan 80s, Reagan Bush 80s.
Oh, wow.
And so the administration said no. And so we called a protest, saying, students' rights, whatever, and it was crazy. And my dad was so embarrassed. He said, we were out here marching for civil rights and getting hosed by, fire hoses, and you're out here fighting for rubbers. That doesn't make any sense. So that was the first one. But then the thing that I really remember, though, was that the year I graduated, which was 1990, that was the 30-year anniversary of the sit-in movement. And my girlfriend at that time, still a good friend of mine, was the Black Student Alliance president at Vanderbilt University, much fancier university. And so I went up there for that February 1st, 1990, 30-year celebration of that student movement. And I got a chance to hear from Reverend C.T. Vivian and all these great, great civil rights people who had come back, Diane Nash. I mean, it was a who's who of those young students, of course, now 30 years older. And C.T. Vivian said, if you don't fight for what you want, you deserve what you get. Ooh. And he said, stay nonviolent. Anything that your opponent does to destroy you will only develop you as long as you stay nonviolent. I mean, I could almost give you word for word his speech. And and also the Black students at Tennessee State University were protesting at that point because they weren't getting fair amount of money from the state government, because historically Black college, and they weren't getting the fair amount of money. So they were protesting themselves at the time. So you had my generation of young protesters meeting this legendary generation of young protesters, and I said, I want to be like C.T. Vivian. I want to stand up for our rights. I want to be a part of this tradition. To that point, I'd mainly been a student journalist and a cartoonist and a photographer. Monica, my girlfriend at the time, had been a leader in the anti-apartheid struggle at Vanderbilt, but I hadn't been. I'd been a writer, but I hadn't been a fighter. So I decided to go to law school. I decided to join the fight, but and when I got to law school, there were some racial incidents on the campus at Yale, and I wound up being the spokesperson, even in my first year, against what was going on. And I just kept going.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to ask and for sharing all of this wonderful life experiences. So we have a couple of students here. I hate when people say couple and it's more than two. So a few students here. That's my grammar police ways. Use the words correctly. Let's start with Alicia Ryan. Alicia, if you could unmute yourself and tell us who you are and share your question.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Alicia Ryan. I'm a PPIA major at the University of Baltimore, which is just a fancy way of saying public policy. And I'm also a community development fellow through the University of Baltimore with the Upton Planning Committee, which services a West Baltimore community that has been underserved historically. So my question kind of relates to that, which is how can community members and organizations collaborate with public administrators to promote social equity in their communities?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. Do you have anything in mind in particular?
Well, I think mostly with effectiveness, because, we collaborate with, obviously, city leaders and public administrators a lot. Sometimes it's not very effective to get what the community needs and wants to promote social equity, workforce development, upward mobility, housing access. So yes, it is really broad. But if you wanted to dive into one of those areas, that would be nice. Thank you.
Look, these are hard Rubik's cubes to solve. Any neighborhood, any city, you already know where the problems are. Everybody does. That doesn't take a genius to figure out where the problems are, which schools aren't working, which neighborhoods aren't working, which families are in trouble. The challenge is to figure out what to do about it. And the problem is that none of the things that you will be initially taught, either in a community-based organization by the leader of that organization, or in a classroom, or any place, is going to work perfectly every time. It's just not going to. This is not. It's not a baking recipe. That's not how justice works. And so the challenge is, first of all, getting to know the decision makers and getting to know the people whose decisions they are impacting on the front end is hard. So on the front end of your career, you're going to tend to either be an insider or an outsider. You're either going to work with grassroots groups that don't have a lot of power, money, and influence. You try to build them up, understand the issues and stuff like that, get some credibility there, get some knowledge there, and move from the outsider basis, which what I did. Or you're going to go and try to work for the city or work for the state legislature or work for the housing authority or whatever, and you're going to be more of an insider. Doesn't matter where you start. You only got one blade of the scissor. And one blade of the scissor don't cut no paper. At some point, you've got to be able to bring the outsiders and the insiders together to get stuff done. And that is the second order development for yourself as a change maker. First, you got to get good at being an insider or being an outsider. Then you got to get good at collaborating with the people across that divide. The key is, if you can, and it's hard to do this, if you can figure out a solution, everybody knows the problem, everybody knows the quote unquote issue, everybody knows, and everybody can talk at length about the disparities and the inequities and stuff like that. And you can have a whole career just explaining and describing that stuff and saying something should be done. Look, having an issue-based orientation to life, issue just another word for problem. So people, what issue are you working on? You can say the issue you're working on. In other words, the problem that you're focused on. But ask somebody, what's the solution you're working for? What is the solution you're working for? Very few people can answer that. The key is the third order leadership, where it's not just learning how to be a good outside protester, agitator, advocate, or being a good insider, bureaucrat. It's not just being able to cross those divides back and forth so you understand each side. It's knowing what solution you want. You mentioned that I work with Prince. One of the things that Prince always said to us, Prince, now some young people actually have never heard of Prince, which maybe want to jump off a bridge, but we'll leave that to another conversation. But Prince, I handle a lot of his philanthropic efforts for him. And, and sometimes, things get contentious. People are arguing, fussing, fighting, we're frustrated, this person didn't do this, whatever. And Prince would cut through all that and he would just say, listen to all this nonsense. And Prince had a way of looking at you the way a sober person looks at a drunk person. Just disgusted. And he would say, Van, what do you want? What do you want? Let's focus on that. And often by the time, you had to finish, this person's wrong, that person's wrong, and how dare you, blah, blah, blah. You've lost, you don't even know what you want. You're just reacting to the reaction of the reaction. And we spend a lot of time doing that. And so I don't think what I really want is I want the mayor to sign off on this permit. And he would say, well, have you called the mayor? No, sir. Well, then why don't you do that? Well, he approved the permit, sir. Thank you. And you realize that you can be in cultures where everybody's busy and everybody's active, but no effective action is taking place. So the key is, what is the solution that you're fighting for? And what network of people on the inside and the outside can you mobilize behind your solution? If you structure your life in that way, you wind up just getting a lot of stuff done, because most people are just spinning. They're just spinning. And so I hope that's a decent answer. Hello? Oh, is she frozen? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
I think she got frozen there.
Oh, okay.
Kelechi. Well, I can keep talking.
Hi.
Oh,
Can I say something, please?
Yeah,
Oh,
If you don't
just
mind?
came back
I'm
in.
here. I don't know why I just got
Or am I
frozen.
interrupting your story?
No, the sister just came back.
Yes, I'm back.
Hello?
I'm glad I had a backup
I
because I
guess-
didn't realize my laptop was going to do that. But did you get to finish what you were saying, Van?
I did. I was
Why am I
brilliant.
speaking
It
that
was
way?
amazing.
I heard most of it. I did hear most of it. Then all of a sudden I was like, did he freeze or did I freeze? Okay, so let's go on to.
Hey, for some reason, yeah, go ahead. For some reason, Tony, for some reason, thinks he has the floor. I don't know if he's supposed to have the floor or not, but he thinks.
No, he is not. We have not opened it up yet.
Okay, good.
But we will when we get a sec,
Cool.
Tony. So let's move on to Safyan. Safyan, are you here? Yes, Sufyan, sorry.
Thank you, Wen, for being here. It's been honor to have conversation with you. I am Safyan Tahir Burka. Basically, I am from Pakistan, working as in a defense department of Pakistan. So I am doing my PhD as well, and currently I am attending University of Texas, Dallas as a visiting scholar. So my question is a bit context specific. My question is, issues related to social justice and equity are being raised in the whole world. But why do you suppose these issues are not gaining significance in developing countries, particularly in South Asia, as compared to Western world? Thank you.
Well, I don't know if I agree with the premise. I don't know what the correct term is, in the global South, all those issues are getting a ton of attention there. All of the media, the press. So help me understand, do you mean why does the US press not pay attention to stuff overseas, or what do you mean?
No, I'm asking about the issues in South Asia is bit gender specific. Like the female population, they're very less in public service. So if they join the public service and they have the issues, they are being less considered as compared to their male counterparts in the service. So these issues, recently, a woman raised a query in the court that I have been received a biased issue just being for a female. So the court dismissed the appeal. So the issue has not been given importance in in South Asian context. So what do you think that we should do to highlight these issues for a significant level?
Look, I have not spent any time in South Asia. And so I would be quite arrogant to sit up here as a US citizen and try to tell you what to do. I can tell you in the US context, we have not made as much progress as we should make. And I think for any issue, the people who are most directly affected need to be given the floor, or need to take the floor to articulate their issues, and the people who are not directly affected need to work as good allies. But I think Americans make a big mistake. We're only 5% of the world's population. 95% of the world is not in the United States. The folks you're talking about are quite capable of solving their own problems. And so I'm not sure that I would be wise to fall into that typical American trap of here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't do. I'd have to learn a lot more.
All right, thank you so much. Frank Brooks, you've got a question.
Hey, good afternoon, I guess it is. I'm Frank Brooks. I am a doctoral student, a doctoral candidate at the University of Baltimore. I'm also, like your dad was, I'm a military member as well. So we have that in common. And I have family in Memphis, Tennessee. So I say all that just to, ease it up a little bit. But so my question is, with the advancements in artificial technology, and artificial intelligence that we've seen recently, so think about like ChatGPT and such, do you think citizens, particularly minorities, should be encouraged or concerned about that advancement, given AI's importance to innovations that support or impact society? Like, for example, facial recognition technology. We know that facial recognition technology can be embedded with biases that negatively impact minority communities. So how are you looking at the advancements in AI?
Well, I think it's certainly the most important technological development probably in human history. I think those of us who care about communities that don't have much, but in a material way anyway, have to look at all technology with the same basic question, which is, how do you minimize the pain and maximize the gain as these transitions take place? I look at it, if you look at everything I've were focused on when in California we started moving towards solar energy. My view on it, people were saying, well, it's just for white people. Only white people can't afford it. So it's irrelevant to Black people. And I said, well, I see it differently. Solar panels don't put themselves up. Somebody's got to, that's a contract, that's a job, that's an entrepreneurial opportunity for somebody just to install the solar panels, to manufacture the solar panels, to fix the solar panels. So I fought for what was called green jobs at the time to make sure that as we move to a clean energy economy, that green wave could lift all boats and we could participate. Wasn't as successful as I wanted to, but I did get federal legislation passed, the Green Jobs Act 2008. I did get a chance to play a role in the Obama White House, advising him on $80 billion in green stimulus. So I tried. And then when virtual reality started coming around, I said, hold on a second, you know, this could be an empathy machine. You know, if you could put goggles on, all of a sudden you could have a completely different experience of life, but it's just being used for games and nonsense. So we built an initiative to use virtual reality to let people experience what it's like to be a young Black child on the front seat of a car with your father driving that car when it gets pulled over. And we took that virtual reality experience to CPAC, the big conservative convention. I could have gone to CPAC and argued with people for 100 hours or 100 days or 100 years and never convinced them that police misconduct was a serious thing. We put those visors on CPAC attendees, and in 3 minutes they came out and said, oh, something's got to be done. They had never seen it from a child's point of view. Daddy's talking to you, everything's fine, then the lights start flashing. Now you're pulled over. Now here come these big people with guns. They said, we got to do something in 3 minutes. So I was able to use a technology that wasn't intended for justice, but I used it for justice. We won an Emmy for doing that. So I say that to say now that I'm looking at, and then of course, Prince and I worked on trying to get computer coding into schools for our kids with limited success. So to your point, now I'm looking at artificial intelligence. And not just artificial intelligence. You have multiple, what I call exponential technologies, exponential tech, that are happening all at the same time. Quantum computing. All your passwords are done. Forget it. Once quantum computing comes on, whereas with existing technology, it would take a computer 1,000,000 years to break your passcode. If it's a strong passcode, it'll take quantum computing 10 minutes. So that's going to change everything when it comes to security. Artificial intelligence. The robots came after all the manual workers. You don't need people to lift and carry stuff in the Amazon warehouse because you got robots doing a lot of that. And it's, oh, well, the blue collar workers got screwed over. Well, now that's coming for the white collar workers. If you don't need a lawyer to review and create a contract and it can be done in 10 seconds, what's happening to all the lawyers? So artificial intelligence is now going to do to white collar workers what robots did to blue collar workers. That's a whole different level of problems, which we're not ready for. Biotech, bioengineering, CRISPR, you know, the fact that humans now have the ability to edit our own genes. Well, who's going to get access? Who's not going to get access? What are the cost points? I already told you, virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse, also crypto, blockchain. So you've got 5, 6, 7 completely transformative technologies all hitting at the same time, plus clean energy going up an exponential curve simultaneously. We've never seen anything like this. And so no matter what we do, I think those of us who call ourselves change makers or aspire to be change makers have to be a lot more humble. In the last century, markets and technology was here, but government was here. And so it made a lot of sense to go to government for our solutions. And if you look at the last century, almost everybody is a lawyer. Gandhi is a lawyer. Mandela is a lawyer. The Kennedy brothers are lawyers. Castro is a lawyer. Lenin, Vladimir Lenin is a lawyer. so many of the major change makers, Thurgood Marshall, obviously a lawyer, were lawyers. Why? Because the last century, the 1900s, were the century of states and citizenship. Are the colonies going to be free, or are they going to be, run by another country? That's a question for lawyers. That's a constitutional question. Are women going to be equal or not? Or can blacks vote or not? These are all legal questions, setting the legal framework for society. So lawyers and politics and policy and the Supreme Court, and can we ever have a black president, and all those kinds of things, that was a huge conversation for the 1900s. This is not a century about states and citizenship. This is a century that's about commerce and communications. It's about technology and finance. So the arena of struggle has changed because the mechanisms of change have changed. Change has changed. But the other way I'll say it is, if you're 10 years old or 20 years old and you want to change the world, you're not going to say, I want to run for president. You're going to say, I want to start a technology company. Because that technology company is going to probably change the world a lot faster than the president. And so we, as people who have our hands on this next generation, especially the ones who are big-hearted, especially the ones who want to, quote unquote, help the community, especially those who want to do good, especially the ones who are not motivated by profit, we got to tell them, y'all are the main ones that need to be getting in technology. Y'all are the main ones who need to be getting into finance. You're the main ones who need to be taking business courses and technology courses. Because if you don't, the only people with those superpowers will be people who don't give a damn about anybody but themselves, who don't give a damn about you, the earth, nothing. They're trying to go to Mars. They don't care if the earth dies. Okay. So if you're big-hearted in my generation, go to law school, become an academic, start a not-for-profit as I have done so many times, run for office. Hey, we need to redeploy some of our assets now. Some people should be doing that, but we need a lot more of our people starting technology companies for justice, and not just critiquing them, not just being ethicists and say, well, we're ethically concerned. Say, no, I started my own AI company, somebody needs to say, and we're doing it different. We're doing it better. We're correcting the mistakes and errors of your racist AI company because we built an anti-racist AI company. That's a different level. See, the game keeps changing. And so we have to keep upping our game. At first, you're going to be an insider or an outsider. Well, that's not enough. Okay, now we got to work across these lines. That's not enough. Now you got to have a solution. No, it's not enough. Well, guess what? The public sector by itself is not enough. You got to deal with the private sector. And the private sector, the thing we got to tell our young people, it's a long question, but you asked me a tough question, Frank, and I'm going to give you a real answer. What we're not telling our young people is that there are 4 geographic corners of power in this country. Geographically, there are 4 corners of power. Hold on one second.
Is it the president of the United States, babe?
It is not.
Okay. I was gonna say, tell him I said hello.
I'm sure he'll be happy to hear from you. I'm just so sorry.
He's actually in Baltimore right now as we speak. So
yeah.
Take your time, brother. Take your time. I need that information. Please take your time.
No, I am not in town, and my kids are in LA, and I'm in the Bay Area. So you gotta sometimes you gotta be a dad for a quick second. But there are 4 geographic corners of power in this country, and they never tell us that. They tell you about, oh, you want to make a difference? Well, policy, politics, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's about Washington, D.C. At the end of the day, it's about Washington, D.C. Now, you might be the State House, it might be City Hall, depending on what level of the game you're playing it. But fundamentally, let's just call that Washington, D.C. Okay, that's one city. It got a lot of stuff. There's one city and 2 parties. Now, I'll tell you what drives me crazy is my young activist friends who say, the only thing you can do is to be involved in policy, politics, not-for-profit stuff, the academy. Otherwise, you're a sellout, you're a corporate, greedy person, whatever. And by the way, in politics, you can only work with one party. You can't work with Republicans, only work with Democrats. Okay. And you really shouldn't run for you shouldn't be a donor in politics because that's corrupt, and running for office makes you a sellout. So you can really only be an activist in the political realm as a progressive. That's basically what they limit you to. I'm gonna come back to that. Remember that. That's what they limit you to. But here's how power works. DC is just one corner of power, the democracy. But you can get on a train in DC on the Acela Express line, go up to New York City and get out and be on Wall Street. Big money, big banks, finance, the plutocracy. And there's very few blacks there. Very few. Very few. But that's where the big money is. Finance capital. You can then leave Wall Street, get in a cab, go to JFK and fly to San Francisco, which is where I'm here in the Bay Area, and land. And what's that? Silicon Valley, Facebook, Apple, Google, now they call it Alphabet. All these startups are here in the Bay Area, the technocracy. Very few African Americans here, very few, more than it used to be, but still very, very few. That's, trillion-dollar industries. Industries. I told you, AI, quantum computing, blah, blah, blah. Very few of us here. Then you could, as I will do later on today, hop on a plane and drop down to Los Angeles. Hollywood, media, not the democracy, not the plutocracy, not the technocracy, but the mediaocracy.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there? Mediocracy. But and yeah, you said with a lot of African Americans in LA, we're the stars. We don't own the studios. We're the stars. Unless you're Tyler or Oprah, you don't own the studio. So now you have four corners of power: government, finance, technology, and media ownership. But the so-called change-making, radical Black activists of today will tell you, if you go to Wall Street, you're a sellout. If you start a tech company, you probably sell out. If you try to run a big business in Hollywood, you're probably a sellout. You're going to make all the change in the world based on in a four-corner game, one corner, one half of that corner, and 1/3 of the one half. And they wonder why they're frustrated. You're trying, you will only deal with one political party. You won't deal with both. Now, look, I'm a strong Democrat, but I deal with anybody to solve my problem because I have a solution. I don't just have an issue. I don't just have a complaint. I don't just have a problem. I have a solution I'm trying to implement. I've got a bill I'm trying to pass. I got something got some scholarships I'm trying to pass out. So I'll work with anybody. I got a solution. I'll work with anybody to get my solution. But you're going to be dealing with people who are on Twitter and who think they know everything, who will tell you that you can change the whole world by being in a four-corner game on one corner, one half, 1/3. 1/3 of one half of one corner in a four-corner game will get you frustration. And that's what you have. And so it's not just, Frank, that we need to take technology more seriously. We need to participate. We need to be participants. If somebody right now is criticizing anything that you're in, somebody right now criticizing the military, they've never served a day. They've never done a push-up. They would know a rifle from a broom, but they're going to tell you about the military. You're not going to listen to them. Somebody who's in the military, who is, who's gone through what you've gone through, and they tell you something, you listen totally differently. And so we can no longer stand outside of finance, technology, and media ownership and critique and protest and complain. We've got to start trying to own and to direct.
Can I borrow $100 million?
From whom?
Well, okay, just half of that. I know you got some from Bezos, so we can collaborate on that. So that we can start owning some things. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I've heard that talk before. If you've said that somewhere else about the four corners, so I appreciate what you've shared here. Are you done though?
I am.
Okay. So one more question, and then we're opening it up. Noah, what's your question?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Jones, for gracing us with your presence. I'm enjoying the conversation. And thank you for your earlier work. You mentioned HIV and the situation in Africa. So I'm a PhD student at the University of the Cumberland with a focus on leadership and a bias towards health inequalities. So my question for you is sort of piggybacking on your technology earlier question you received. How do you envision the role of technology in creating an equitable systems and communities? And also, how do you think the current political climate might be helpful, if at all?
When you say climate, do you mean political climate or ecological climate?
The political system, the leadership.
Well, look, I can only tell you what I'm doing. As the sister mentioned, Jeff Bezos set aside $100 million of charitable grant making for me to direct for him. People say, I have $100 million. If I had $100 million, I wouldn't be in this shitty hotel room. So I'll tell you that. I'm just a TV guy at CNN, but I've got access to Jeff Bezos's charitable giving, and I can direct. One of the things that we directed some dollars to was to create an incubator for businesses that want to disrupt the incarceration industry. I think the incarceration industry is the most despicable industry in the world. And we have a $90 billion incarceration industry here in the United States. And by the way, 94% of the prisons are public prisons.
Yeah.
But they are still a part of this overall incarceration industry because of all the contracts and the laundry and the food services and the prison guards unions or whatever. So many people profiting off of the trafficking in human bodies. So many people profiting off of human flesh behind bars, disproportionately Black, brown, and almost all poor. I hate the incarceration industry. And yet I spent the past 30 years fighting against it, and it's just as big as it was before. There's been some small decrease, but nothing near what needs to be done. And I want to up my game. The thing about this game is it's just like when your kids play video games. Once you master one level, you go to the next level and it's hard again. If what you're doing isn't hard again, you're not serious. That's just the bottom line. And I'm going to tell you something. There's something to this. 10 years. Some people, you meet them, you haven't seen them for 10 years. They're not actually 10 years older mentally. They're not actually 10 years older psychologically. They're not actually 10 years older professionally because they didn't live 10 years. They lived 1 year 10 times. They did the same thing every year for 10 years. So they actually just lived 1 year. They just did it 10 times. And their growth is flatlined and they don't know it because they're going to the same meetings, talking to the same people, doing the same stuff. They give the same stories. If you're serious about change, you have to change and recognize that change itself is changing. I say that to say, I'm not going to keep just passing these bipartisan bills in these different states that aren't making the difference I wanted to make. It would be easy for me to do so. I've done 20-some bills. I got Donald Trump to sign one of my bills. We got 25,000 people out of the federal prison system under Donald Trump with the First Step Act. The New York Times, not Fox News, the New York Times said it was the most substantial breakthrough in criminal justice in a generation. I was the main advocate for that. Got criticized by a lot of progressives for that. But we got 25,000 people home. You know who did not criticize me? The 25,000 people we got home. So not worried about that. My worst day on Twitter is better than anybody's best day in prison. So we have to fight for our people. That said, you ask about technology and these different things. Look, what I said, let's create an incubator to incubate businesses that will challenge the incarceration industry. I want to help build a decarceration industry. If you're going to have one kid and you're going to spend $100,000 on that kid, which is what we do, And at the end of that year, $100,000 per year per kid locked up. 100,000. You can send 2 kids to Yale for the cost of sending 1 kid to jail. But for that, at the end of that year, that $100,000, you know what it got you? It got you the same kid with more tattoos. That's all it changed. Same kid, more tattoos. Now, if you gave anybody on this call, including you, Kelechi, 1 kid and $100,000, that kid is going to have a fantastic life.
Absolutely.
Think about what you could do with 1 kid and $100,000. You could buy the kid a car, drive the kid in the new car to the airport, fly the kid to London, get a hotel room in London, and then sit down and say, what do you want to do with your life? And still have $70,000 left.
Yeah.
I mean, what couldn't you do with $100,000 and 1 kid every year? So why can't we compete for those dollars? Why can't a tech bro and a Black grandmama get together and compete for those same dollars and those same kids? I want to use, and listen, for some categories of offenses, if you're an axe murderer, you might need to be in a dungeon. But why do you have a 17th century technology called dungeons for every offense on the book? You bounce a check, dungeon. Deadbeat dad, dungeon. Shoplifter, dungeon. Why are you putting people in dungeons, in cages for all these offenses? Some of these offenses, people should be at home. Maybe they get monitored at home. But they should also be getting counseling, coaching, opportunity, maybe the nutrition. I mean, we have no idea why people are acting the way they're acting.
Yeah.
But if you gave me 1 kid $100,000, I could figure it out.
Absolutely.
I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I want to disrupt the incarceration industry. I want to see a decarceration industry built. People say Van Jones wants to see people making money in the prison space. Yes, I do. If they're making money getting people out of prison and healing people and helping people, why shouldn't the yoga instructors get paid? Why shouldn't the counselors get paid? Why shouldn't the art instructors get paid? Why shouldn't the healers get paid? The guards get paid.
There you go.
The people installing the barbed wire get paid. The people putting security cameras everywhere get paid. The people selling the pepper spray, the mace, they get paid. Why can't the people who help people in prison get paid? You ever been to a prison? The people doing the most work are there as volunteers. Church group, they came from a Buddhist temple. They're in there helping the people. They're getting nothing. And the people brutalizing everybody are getting paid. So now that's a different way of thinking. That's not 20-year-old Van Jones, a 30-year-old Van Jones. That's 50-year-old, 55-year-old Van Jones almost. Now that's hard. I now have to learn finance. I have to learn technology. I have to learn how to run an incubator. I have to learn how to deal with project finance. I have to learn all, but that's what this game is. Unless your problem got solved, unless you look around and all the Black people are free and all the poor people got money, then you have to keep raising the bar. And so you use technology is a long way around to your question, Noah, but technology, embedding technology into our social change is key. Don't just sit back here and say, well, the tech guys have all the money and it's racist. That's cheap, man. That's easy. Build something that's better. Find some of the technologists that are not racist and get them to work with you. A lot of technologists, they're just working where they're working. Noah hasn't said, hey, come over here and help me solve this problem. So you don't know if they'll help you if they won't. We don't even ask, we assume. The last thing I'll say is very long answer to a very short question, but the last thing I'll say is simply this. We've got after George Floyd, a lot of people who are not Black were very concerned. 2 years later, they're not as concerned because they don't know what to do. So they got very concerned and then it kind of went back, but it didn't go back to where it was. It went up and it came back. Now that delta between where people were 3 or 4 years ago, where you had to try to beg people to believe police brutality was even real, to now everybody knows it's real, but what do you do about it? That's a big delta. That's a big change. If we can't make use of that, there was white folks, you had Black Lives Matter protests with no Black people. It was all white folks and Asians and everybody out here, George Floyd crying and stuff in a pandemic. If we can't figure out a way to find some of those people now and build things that will do a better job, then that's on us.
Yes, I love your innovative thinking because I think that's what hinders progress is when we think that there's just one way to do a certain thing, and you're saying there's other ways, and we're just going to figure out what those other ways are. So I can't but appreciate that, and it may come with some backlash, of course, as you've said, but someone who appreciates innovation can't but appreciate what you're doing. So thank you.
And let me just say something to everybody here, which is, you will pay a cost
Mm,
if you think outside the box.
mhm,
Please don't let anybody tell you that you're going to think outside the box and do something innovative to help Black kids and brown kids and poor kids. And then Black and brown and poor people are going to applaud you, understand you, appreciate you, and love you. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
mm,
My worst critics are not right-wing white Republicans. They don't care about me at all. My worst critics are people who look like me,
mhm.
vote like me, pray like me. They can't stand that I am a free Black man.
Oof.
I'm not going to be on any plantation, including yours. I'm not going to be on the Black plantation or the white plantation. I'm not on anybody's plantation. I'm trying to get free. I'm trying to get my people free.
Mm.
And so I may say something you don't like. I may say something I don't like 5 seconds later. But I'm free to say it, and I'm free to take the consequences and learn from it.
I love
But
that.
but we spend so much time trying to make sure that we're seen as down, that we're seen as cool, that nobody can challenge our commitment to the community. And yet the community is suffering the same way now that it was 30 years ago when I got out of school.
Mm,
So all these people running around here, so knowledgeable, who will kick your butt the minute you say, well, hold on a second. Are all the Republicans racist? Every one of them? Are all the Democrats angels and saints? Are all the rich people greedy and evil? Are all the poor people perfect?
mhm.
Now you're a sellout just because you question the paradigm. Just because you question the paradigm. What if 95% of Republicans are racist? Well, what about the 5% that are not? Can we talk to them? Oh, so even if I talk to the ones who are not racist, I'm a sellout? Well, hold on a second. Now you're just stereotyping everybody. So we're becoming what we're fighting. Oh, don't say that. What if you say so? What if you point out that there are failures? I live in California. California built more prisons for Black people than Texas did during the prison boom. Oh, can't say that. So now you say, well, the other people are in a cult. They're afraid to say anything against their cult leaders. You know, that they're in a MAGA cult, they're in a QAnon cult. But you speak out against your leaders. Say something against any of our leaders or against our sacred assumptions and see what happens to you. So all of us, hold on a second. I apologize. All of us at the end of the day have to make a decision. Do you care more about solving the problem and helping somebody, or do you care more about fitting in? Because fitting into the existing way of activism has not worked and is not working. But you can go to a lot of conferences. You can write a lot of theses and dissertations. You can be in a lot of WhatsApp groups. You can have everybody can like everything you post on your social media page. You can get a lot of adulation and as long as you stay inside of the same talking points, that one party is good, the other party is bad, one race is good, the other race is bad, one group is, as long as you stay inside those talking points and keep doing the same stuff, you'll get a lot of adulation. You just won't change anything.
Yeah.
And so, that's the one thing I encourage people to do. Get 2 friends. One of them needs to be Jesus. If you can find one more, that's all. Good luck. And then everybody else, they're not gonna like everything you do. And if you're trying to be liked, if you worry about clicks and likes and stuff like that, you will have a very, very good social life in a country that is getting worse every day.
Mm. Wow. Let's just pause for a second, because that was a lot, and it was really important to say. I appreciate that. I say these things in my classroom, but it's a classroom and not like Van Jones saying it. So Van Jones, thank you for saying this, because you have to be free. I tell people you have to say what you want. What if it's facts? Then what's your problem? You know, don't be afraid of sharing facts. That's what it is, you know, and you are entitled to your opinions, you know, and just because you vote Republican or Democrat doesn't mean that you have to think the way, you know, a certain way or do a certain thing, you know.
Like I'm always going to vote for Democrats because in my view, I believe in the bulk of what Democrats say.
Yeah.
But I sure am glad that it's not just up to one party. I don't want one party rule in any country. You always need somebody pushing back. You always need somebody asking the question. You always need somebody saying, well, hold on a second. Now, how much does that cost? And who's going to pay for it? And how's it actually going to work? And if you don't have, if you just have if you monocrop anything, you monocrop a field and just only have one thing growing in that field, at some point the pestilence will come in and wipe it all out. You need to have a diversity. We're the main ones talking about diversity and hate it the most. We want diversity as long as you agree with everything we say. Well, hold on a second, that's not diversity. What are you talking about? If we believe in the power of diversity, for them, we need to believe into it for us as well. Oh, well, that's scary. Well, yeah, it's scary, but you might get a better answer.
Yeah.
You might get a better solution for that kid that you're talking about.
Yeah. So, Tony, you can unmute yourself and share a question. I do want to say I've been drinking water, and dude, you have not drank even a sip, and you've been doing most of the talking. There we go. Please get you something to drink. Thank you. Tony, go ahead. You're not
okay. I'm unmuted. Thank you for giving me another chance. Van Jones, thank you for being on here and speaking truth. And I just want to give you that kind of compliment because before you started, we some other brothers and I, we was discussing it. We said, Van Jones is independent. He doesn't belong to anyone. And you just spoke your truth today. So you said solutions. So let me give a solution to many of my colleagues here on in this conference, because I'm somewhat of an older guy. And this young lady asked you a question, and it was very broad. And my thinking was, we usually trying to deal on a macro level when it comes to policy change or advocacy, whereas maybe we should reduce that to more of a meso level, or even a meso. Sometimes we could only get one slice of the pie and start from there and go with the growth.
What does meso mean? What does meso mean? That's some new words.
Oh, I'm sorry. Social worker is everybody who's not a social worker. That's my undergraduate degree. I still speak in that term. Meso is more like community, neighborhoods, the library system. That would be a meso. And so let's say the library system down here in Harris County is not sufficient. Books are not in the library. We have a issue with homeless people visiting the library all day long, keeping the rest of the public away from the library. What needs to be done? So just that issue alone, we could say that's a meso issue. And how can we attack it? So we go in the library, we talk to each individual homeless person, which it reduces to a micro level social assessment of that person.
So what was your question?
So you know,
Yeah, I
I done
forgot
messed,
now,
I done
so-
went all the way all around because Mr. Jones wanted to know what's the difference.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so do you understand where I'm going,
I
Mr. Jones?
understand now. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I'm saying is let's cut it down to smaller levels or smaller partials and start growing from there. Your incubation on decriminalizing the prison system. I worked in the jail. We had this program called reentry program. But what I found out was the brothers and sisters, they were more so set on just settling their cases, getting it over with, you know. Who knows if they were guilty or not? That's another part of de-escalating or decriminalizing, however you put it, I'm sorry, the prison system. These sisters and brothers are just saying, oh, I'm guilty, I'll take whatever you want to give. I could have got 25, but all I'm gonna get is 7. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So if we can make, that's more of a legal issue. So I just wanted to just speak to you, I guess.
Okay.
Have
well,
a good day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Keisha King.
Hey, everybody. Great to be back today. Really great to hear Mr. Jones speak today. I guess I'm just a little perplexed now because just hearing your perspective with regard to the prison system. I actually am, thank you. I apologize. I'll give you your report, Jay. I'll call you. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I'm out doing home visits. I'm a parole and probation agent with the Division of Parole and Probation here in the state of Maryland. And I want to take this opportunity because I know that you don't get these opportunities very often to ask you if anybody's ever asked you to sit on their dissertation committee.
No.
Well, I'm going to ask. And I heard you speak about the underdog, and my dissertation topic is, I'm still fleshing it out because I'm in my first year in the DPA program at the University of Baltimore, first year, second semester. And my topic is bullying in the workplace, specifically the culture of bullying in the Division of Parole and Probation here in the state of Maryland. And I am asking you to be on my dissertation committee. I don't know what you have going on, but I would be elated if you accepted, and I would love to work with you through my dissertation. So I wanted to make sure that I, like you said, if you don't ask,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know, then I just.
Well, look, I appreciate I appreciate you putting it out there. That I'm going to tell you, I won't be able to do it just because I already have too many things and too many people mad at me because I said yes and didn't follow through properly. So I'm not going to say yes and then let you down. But what I will say is that with that attitude, you're going to go far.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
That's good.
Stephanie Strickland.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I would like to say I'm from Alabama, fortunately. We are looking forward to President Biden visit here on Sunday for the 58th Bloody Sunday, which is not far from me, about an hour, maybe 2 hours. I'm in Opelika, Alabama. I would like to say, first of all, you are a very inspiring young man, and the compassion that you had when President Obama won the election, the tears I felt was real. And my question to you is, who inspired you? And also, will you give to young Black and white people, speaking in general to young people, what would you advise them to do in order for them to be successful and to fulfill their dreams? Because I know here in Alabama, our young people feel like there's no chance here in Alabama at all. We're last in everything. Speaking of the broadband in the rural area, they're trying to get that started with the internet, and it's just so little information here in Alabama. So that's why a lot of kids here venture out and go beyond Alabama. So what would you advise young people, I guess Black people say, get our way out? I mean, how would you, what would you say to them?
Look, it's tough. And part of it is that we spend too much time on the wrong stuff. We are the only community that thinks the most important thing we can teach our kids is about the past. There's no community like that. I love Black history. But at this point, I would trade in about 5 Black History months for 1 Black Future weekend. What is the Black future? What do we want? We insist that everybody has to know about Dr. King and Fannie Lou Hamer and Harriet Tubman, and we've done a fantastic job. People know all about our history. People don't know Eskimo history. They know Black history. People don't know the Filipino-American struggle. They know the African-American struggle. We've been very successful at that. But we have not been as successful. I mean, the leadership class. We always, oh, what about Pookie and Snoopy and Shanae and them on the street corner? The leadership class, us. What is the future that we're aiming for? What is the relationship we want to have to the changes that we see coming? Whether it's artificial intelligence or all the different things. Like people say, well, Black folk, we aren't prepared for all these new technologies. 99% of white folk are not either. 99% of white folk don't know anything more about artificial intelligence than me or you, or quantum computing, or private space flights, or anything else. We are equally ignorant. The future is coming in so fast. The only equality you will ever have in your life is right now, because we are equally ignorant as 99% of white folk about what's coming. There's your equality. Congratulations. We equally ignorant. The white kids don't know how to use artificial intelligence, nor do the Black kids. The white kids don't know about quantum. So you have a moment. But the main thing, the main problem I have is we are so busy beating people up about the past that we haven't even, just like Prince, what do you want? What do you want? And so, of course, our kids are lost and confused. The grown folk are lost and confused. Of course, our kids see no sense of the future because the grown folks don't have a sense of the future. I'm tired of blaming these kids. Yeah, these kids are terrible. I got to tell you, they get on my damn nerves. But I got to look in the mirror. I'm older than all my heroes. Dr. King was dead at 39. Malcolm X was dead at 39. Fred Hampton was dead at 21. I'm more than twice as old as Fred Hampton, about to be twice as old as Dr. King. I'm closer to 70 than I am to 40. He never saw 50. So what am I doing that is failing my community? And so what I would say, not just to the young people, to the old people as well, get a subscription to Wired Magazine. Get a subscription to Wired Magazine. I'm gonna say it again, because we never do it. Get a subscription to Wired Magazine. Start with that. Because then at least once a month, you're gonna look at what is actually going on. Wired Magazine covers the technology that's coming. If you read Black Enterprise Magazine, you will miss 99% of what's going on in business. Most of what's going on in business is not even being covered. That's not the Ku Klux Klan trying to misinform us. We're not interested. We're not interested. You call somebody a nerd or a blurred or a geek because they want to talk to you about artificial intelligence or because they want to code computers. I'm going to put it to you straight. We're all friends here. We're not going to fix these schools in time to help these damn kids. We're not. We're not. But we don't have to, because everything they want to learn is right here anyway. It's already right here. if they have a phone, a smartphone, let alone they have an iPad or a laptop, they can learn anything they want to on earth, mostly for free. But they don't know the search terms, and they're not being pushed in that direction. Ask me how I know. I got a kid, a 14-year-old teenage boy. I can't get him to get into robotics and to get into coding. He wants to play basketball all the time. I'm like, listen, you know Steph Curry, you know these people. Are you going to work as hard as Steph Curry? No. Well, then what you doing? What you doing? You play better ball than your little silly friends at school. You're not. No. So we have a hard time now because people think they're going to make a difference by being the next Dr. King or the next protest leader or the next politician. So everybody wants to be a Barack Obama or Fannie Lou Hamer or whatever it is. That's not going to make enough change. And we already have a lot of that. Or they want to be a basketball player, or they want to be a rapper, or they want to do something in the entertainment industry. But like I said, in Hollywood, we're the stars, we don't own the studios. So if you want to be in entertainment, how are you going to be an owner? Not just an artist, but also an owner. Jay-Z is an artist and an owner. Right? My only point to you is you're asking me like what I would say to young people. I would say to young people, you can do whatever you want to. You are a God on earth right now, lowercase g. Why? It's right here. If 30 years ago, somebody could stand in the middle of the street and pull all knowledge on earth into their mind, they would be a god. That's just Google. That's just Google. If 30 years ago, somebody with almost no money could speak to someone on the other side of the world in an instant, that would be a god. That's just a smartphone. It's a smartphone. You are a walking, talking. This thing is 100 times more powerful than the computer that put a man on the moon. 100 times more powerful. And this in 10 years, this will be nothing. Which means you have 100 times the computing power of the US government when it put a man on the moon in your back pocket, but you use it as a toy and not as a tool. So it's about self-education, self-motivation. It's about getting 1, 2 of your partners together to come up with real goals for yourself in terms of what you're going to learn and what you're going to do with your knowledge. But it's on us to quit thinking that Dr. King or Barack Obama is going to come back and save us. If they came back, they would be working on biotech. They wouldn't be marching down the street asking for votes. They'd be trying to become biotech billionaires or artificial intelligence engineers, because that's where the change is going to come from. Now that scares me and you because we don't know anything about that. But that means we have to learn. We have to learn and we quit blaming these kids for being sorry. These kids are terrible, but that said something about us.
Okay, we've got 4 people in line. Ellen is next, and then Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Hello, Dr. Jones. My name is Ellen McKnight Hill. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist by trade. I'm a PhD student at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my question is about your recommendations around accelerators, cohorts and fellowships that help center students around solutions. And so the work that I've been able to do for the last 5 years has been around chronic disease prevention in urban and rural communities, particularly African Americans, that raise health literacy programs to the forefront in culturally appropriate ways so that we might combat chronic diseases. My work around my dissertation that I'll be looking to do is going to be around correlating food deserts and redlining. So the question again, are there any cohorts, accelerators, fellowships that you would recommend for someone or a student who was working in the public health space? Thank you.
No, because that's not my area, so I don't know anything about it. But I'm sure that you can do your research to find it. Now, you're on your own poster behind you? Tell me about your poster.
This particular poster?
The one that has your face on it, over your other shoulder. Your other shoulder, not the, your other shoulder. That shoulder. Is that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me about your poster.
So this is a poster from a event that I curated called What the Health. And so we have a planetarium in downtown Louisiana. And so we convened a group of 400 women to talk about the Netflix series, What the Health, and what it meant to what was going on in the food manufacturing process and what it meant for chronic disease. Now, I'm not a vegetarian and I'm not a vegan, but it was a opportunity to bring some health leaders and health professionals to kind of offer their expertise and their critique and, you know, open folks' minds about, you know,
That's good. So
eating and the direct link to chronic disease.
That's good. So you're showing some leadership. Look, I'm not in the public health field, so I don't know the best people who are doing incubators and accelerators in that field. You can almost certainly find that out faster than I can. But I think it's very encouraging that you are using your leadership to organize your peers and actually take hands-on work. And I believe in PhDs. I also believe in PhDs. We need to have some more PhDs who actually do some stuff. And it seems like you're a PhD who's trying to get a PhD, and I'm glad to meet you. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, then I think it's LaShonda or Kareem. I don't know.
All right, thank you. And thank you for your address, Mr. Jones. So Jennifer Harris, the Policy and Research Manager for the Social Development Commission here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we've had more than 60 years in the space of being a commission and a CAP agency. I'm just gonna get right to the question. As a policy expert with a unique view of the entire nation and the tapestry of the nation, was looking for suggestions for aiding the community in overcoming racial battle fatigue, complacency, and trauma, because we know to move policy on the local level, you're going to need advocacy, and we're going to have to inform people, which is what our research institution is designed to do. So I am asking for your insight on the local, national, global scale. How do we help people overcome just being tired of everything that's transpired so we can move them to advocacy so we can shape policy?
So your problem, your challenge is built into your question. How do we get people to become advocates to change policy? You know, we're the only people who think that way. Do you think if you're on a phone call with a bunch of white folks, they're trying to figure out how to become advocates and change policy?
They're just gonna do it.
Yeah. What they're going to try and figure out how to do is how to launch a business and do it directly. The problem that we have is we're always in the fourth corner of a four-corner game. We're still trying to get policy and politics and protests and lawsuits and that kind of stuff to meet our needs and solve our problems. That means we got a whole bunch of Black people in DC or going to the state capitol or going to city hall or going to the school board or going to the police commission meeting, but they aren't opening up a bank. That's not even in our imagination. They aren't launching a technology company with an app that can solve the problem. They're not building a media company that can stream all of the art and stuff happening in the community. So we keep running our people into the same wall and then trying to figure out how to keep our people inspired. And then we run into the same wall again. Policy is not enough. It's policy plus business, plus technology, plus entertainment information. Once you expand the table, so your little policy person is sitting there with a business person, sitting there with a major artist, sitting there with 3 technology weirdo kids. Now nobody's depressed because this is so inspiring and you're learning, and they say, oh, you know how to talk to the mayor, or you know how to, write a policy. I'm a technology kid. I don't know anything about that. You're amazing. But you're saying, you know how to write a code, you know how to build an app, you know how to do digital video. I don't know how to do that. You're amazing. Oh, you know how to finance it? We have to accept policy is not enough. And we keep running our people into this same wall over and over and over again. And it's not fair. I'm in every community. I'm in Hollywood. I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in Silicon Valley right here. I'm on Wall Street. I'm in Appalachia. I'm in prisons. And I'm telling you, we're weird. We still believe that if we just vote and protest and advocate some more, it's going to work out.
I want to push back, Van. Can I push back?
Please push back.
I don't agree, only because you're oversimplifying this, and it sounds great, and I like steps, like get this and that and the other, but I feel like there's an oversimplification happening here, because to say go start a business, you need the capital, you need the capacity, you need the resources. And what our people, since we're talking our people, we are historically marginalized. We don't have, we've tried to, and I'm not saying we should quit, but I'm saying these are things that there are certain things you need. There are certain people in your network that you need also in order to start step 1 and step 2 and step 3 and step 4. So I just want to push back, because I'm not sure I hear you, and I think that's a good thing to do, but you're talking about people who already have certain things in order to start there.
It's a chicken and egg problem though, sister. I agree. What I'm saying is hard.
Yeah.
But that's the new lunch counter. That's the new lunch counter. Technology is the new lunch counter. It was hard when we had nothing, and we had 300 years of brutal enslavement and then 100 years of Jim Crow terrorism. It was hard for those students in 1960 to go and sit at the lunch counter and get beat in order to bring attention. It would be hard for us to then go and start a whole new movement to figure out how to use the technology in a different way. But it would be more profitable for us to do that in the long term, even though it's hard. And yes, it's a lot easier for us just to continue this mythology that if we just keep using what we have. And what do? We have our voices and we have our bodies. That's what we have. And so what the normal thing to do is use your voice as a vote and use your body as a protest. So we've done that now, but that's not new. I was born in 68. I'm almost 60 years old. We've been doing that for more than half a century. Do you like the outcome? If you don't like the outcome, but you want to insist that everybody keep doing it, expecting a different outcome tomorrow that you didn't get yesterday with the same strategy, the definition of that is insanity. To keep doing exactly the same thing. Now, of course, listen, I'm telling you what we need to do, but what do I do every day? I run my little not-for-profits and I go to Washington, D.C. So I'm learning myself these past few years. I'm trying myself these past few years to try different things. And it's very hard and it's very intimidating. I'll be on these phone calls with these private equity people. I don't know what they're talking about. I do not. I've got an African-American guy who spent time on Wall Street who tries to explain it to me. And he looks at me like I'm a special ed student because I don't understand. So I'm listening to a whole different podcast. I'm going to whole different conferences, and now I'm the dummy. But I'm not going to be the dummy in 5 years. I know I can learn, but I've been learning the same thing. I mean, how many Dr. King documentaries, how many of the same speeches have I given? That's not where the answer is going to come from by itself. I'm not saying that it's nothing. I'm saying it's necessary, but not sufficient. Just like the sister who was here, who was the health nutrition person. If all she was saying was eat more kale, eat more kale, eat more kale, but she wasn't saying you also have to sleep and you also have to exercise and you also have to have some stress reduction. All the kale in the world, you still gonna be sick. All the policy in the world, you still gonna be poor. Because it's more to the game than that, and they won't tell us that. And then when somebody tries to tell us, they say, well, they ain't never gonna let us have the money, but let's keep marching, protesting, and voting. Yes, keep marching, protesting, and voting. But you have to have some people who are trying to figure out the economic aspect and not just economic community development. We got to be scared of Black people owning stuff. We have a post-traumatic stress relationship to capitalism. We don't like the idea of ownership because we used to be owned. We don't like the idea of somebody amassing a whole bunch of wealth because they used to use it against us. Somebody, Sambo pointed something else out too. It's about the we, not the me. You might only do policy, that's okay. But does your network have a banker?
Mm.
Does your network have a technologist?
Mhm.
Does your network have a media genius? If you're a policy person, all you're dealing with the policy people, you don't have it. It's you try to only eat kale and be healthy, but you don't have the sleep, you don't have the exercise, you don't have the therapist. We have to expand our hustle. And thank God, all this stuff is going to get disrupted anyway. These technologies, all these companies are going to get torn down anyway. It's going to be 10 years from now, be a whole new set of billionaires. Why can't some of them be Black?
Oh, absolutely, they
10
should
years from
be.
now, it's going to be 20 years from now, it'll be industries and economies and products and services and technology you never heard of. How come the owners of that can't also be Black?
Mhm.
But if we run all our people in the policy and have the mythology, the only way we can get to there is we have to always go through the government door. We always have to go through the policy door. And then the policy is going to change, and that's going to turn into this thing, and that's going to give this thing. And then eventually, no, that's going to take too long. And so we have to expand our hustle. You don't have to do it, but you have to have a different network of people. And by the way, if you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to get everything done with people who look just like you, vote just like you, pray just like you, love just like you, live just like you, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough straight Black, middle-aged, mega liberal dudes to solve my community's problems. I'm going to have to work with, the minute I have a solution, okay, I want now for there to be, make it up, 100 Black kids excelling in AI in the next 18 months. That's my solution. Well, damn, I immediately gonna have to work with white folk, Black folks, rich folks, technologists, finance people, educators, because I have a solution I'm fighting for. And we have to stop this mythology that the government's gonna do it all, and we just need to get a bunch of Black people to vote and protest, and we're gonna make government act right. It has not worked for 50 years, it's not gonna work the next 50.
All right, I think I won that argument. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I filibustered, so.
LaShonda and then Kareem.
Hello, good afternoon. Oh, thank you. I'm going to be brief. I know that we're running out of time. I just wanted to say, Van, I've always watched you. This is an absolute pleasure to be on a forum where I can actually talk to you directly. As a person who has married family members from the Mississippi Delta region and some HBCU graduate students under my belt, I would say that some of the most brilliant minds come from that area. So it must be something in the water or in the soil. But at any rate, I wanted to ask more about the AI. You know, I have in your age group, and I do have a younger child. I started over, and you know, I'm very interested in getting some tangible resources. I think some people have also put that in the chat, and I do agree. I have been a victim of being abused by my own people for having, you know, divergent points of view, trying to work across party lines and so forth to move things forward. But I wanted to ask, you know, some real tangible, you know, startup places. You know, I know that there's this movements like Black Girls Code and other things, but I do think that we need to really invest ourselves, because I think that that key piece with that AI and the quantum physics and mathematics that is going to happen, that's going to be the leadership that takes media and all the other pillars that you spoke about along with it, because that's where not just our local, but globally, that's where we're going as a race of people. So you can give any voice. I know yesterday they spoke of President Biden's plan to move some of that forward, but if you have anything personally that you can share, I'm here for resources, and I thank you in it.
Look, you said it better than I can say it. The resources, look, there's Black Girls Code, there's code.org. You know, a lot of it is about, you know, you start with those big resources that are well known, and then you try to find the local resources. And then I don't know how old is your kid?
Well, I am actually a mother of 5. And so I will tell you that my oldest is 31 and my youngest has just turned 10. So she's, yeah.
Is she interested in math and science and stuff like that? Or is she more a humanities kid or sports? What is she like?
She likes all of that. She's a straight A student and in a very rigorous program, and she runs track, but she also likes math and science. So
Math is the key.
Mhm.
yeah,
Math is the key. We're humanities people. You know,
yes, we are.
we love, you know, the word, we love, you know, the beat, we love, you know, humanities, but math is the key. And anything you can do, you know, to get her around other kids who do math. What a lot of Asian families do is they have math tutors on the weekend. They're not
Oh,
relying on trying to fix the schools. They don't. That's ridiculous. They will spend their money on, you know, getting a college student to come every Saturday from, you know, 9 to 11, and they call them mathletes, not athletes, but mathletes, and they're drilling, and every night they have half an hour of extra math to do. They're not waiting for the teacher to give them homework. They go online, they find these, you know, these accelerator programs that are free online. And it's just, and you have no choice from the time you're 5 years old. Okay, we're doing our math problems tonight. And if you're not good at math, find somebody who is, or pay somebody who is, you know, or do some kind of trade or barter. And so then that kid, when they go to school, they're so much better at math than everybody else, and they love the math because that's how they get their little self-esteem. So what you want to do is give your kid an unfair advantage in math. You want to give your kid an unfair advantage in coding because you're creating that, and you're trying to find other kids, you know, other parents at church or other parents in your sorority fraternity to say, you know, let's have our kids be, you know, I call, you know, I'm trying to raise my daughter to be an Afronaut, not an astronaut, an Afronaut.
all right.
Where she'll have the physical fitness to be, you know, in space if she wants to be. She'll have the math, the science, the background. She's 1 year old, and we already are thinking about how she is going to be a billionaire on Mars. Now, will she be a billionaire on Mars? She may not. She may not even want to do any of that type of stuff. But at least as parents, we have a future that matches the opportunity. We're not, well, we're going to make sure she knows all about Dr. King. She knows all about Harriet Tubman. She knows all about slavery. She knows about civil rights, and she wants to fight for her cause. Look, she'll know all that stuff. Trust me. But that's not new. What's new is she knows all that stuff, and she's prepared to dance salsa on Mars as a billionaire. What do you have to do? Somebody's going to do that. There'll be some child in her age group is going to do that. Why shouldn't it be my daughter? That's the level of thinking. And so when Ebony Magazine and Jet Magazine and Black Enterprise magazines never provoke that conversation, something is wrong with us. Some stuff is white racism. You and I both know that. Some stuff is bad Black strategy. What is the Black strategy to dominate the back end of this century? We're in the 2020s now. From 2050 on, how do Black people dominate? When you know that everything that will exist at that point doesn't exist right now. The technology doesn't exist right now. The businesses don't exist right now. It's all to be created. And we're the most creative people in the world with no peer.
Yes.
You have the most creative people in the world with no peer. And you're about to have to recreate human civilization with technology. That is what we should be talking to our children about. That is what we should be preaching from the pulpits. That should be in every single Black fraternity, sorority. We get to recreate human civilization using technology. And the most ethical people in the history of the world, the most creative people in the history of the world, the most compassionate people in the history of the world are our people. And we should be the ones building and designing that future, period. Now, that makes now, you know, our sister Jennifer was talking about people being depressed and tired because we're doing the same tired crap. That's going to tire you out. When you start mixing it up and you start walking like the kings and queens that we are, say, okay, well, thank you guys. You had 400 years, you messed it up. Now is our turn. And we're going to take what you brought to the world, but mix it with what we bring to the world and create a completely different civilization. Now, at least you have a dream that fits a new century. Dr. King didn't say, I have a complaint. He said, I had a dream. He didn't say, I have a critique. He had a dream. He didn't say, I got somebody to cancel. He said, I have a dream. What is the dream for this century, Black people? There's nothing that we can't dream in this century we can't do. because the tools to remake everything are coming to you at the same speed they're coming to everybody else.
Wow. You are 1 minute over. I think you owe us. No, but I do want to get to Kareem's question. He had his hand up forever. Sir, if
I'll
you
answer
don't,
short.
just one more question.
I appreciate that. I don't know how you follow that because I felt like such a succinct end to it already.
I know.
But I did have a quick, right, just around opportunities, and I'm grateful to be in this space to be able to learn from you and to think about how I can make change in these big, innovative, and imaginative ways that you have been doing. I was wondering what kind of opportunities were instrumental in helping you hone and own your voice in the spaces that you navigated. As someone who's trying to like navigate certain spaces, I find that there are certain things that I might need to work on. And then as someone who's very interested in social justice philanthropy, I was wondering if there are any other opportunities that exist to work with organizations like yours around similar issues, especially around as we rethink and reimagine philanthropy for social justice.
I'm not hiring any new people right now. I'm actually just trying to rethink, what we're doing and how to. I'm going to spend the next 10 years trying to get what I just said to be real in our community, and I don't know how to do that because we're so off, and convinced that we're right, and we'll argue, and make sure that the white people guys, we might want to be a little bit more humble because this stuff that's coming now is some real stuff, and we need to look at it. So I don't have a great answer for you in terms of, I think the only advice I can have for people is to continue to challenge yourself. It's easy. Look, it's very easy to be the biggest fish in a very small pond or a very small puddle. It's very easy to be the smartest person in a room of people who are not studying. Try to get around people who are really excellent. See that we've got now, like my dad used to say, no excuses, just excellence. My dad didn't want to hear it. We come back, oh, this teacher's racist. My dad said, well, did they put any dogs on you? They put any fire hoses on you? Well, I don't want to hear it. Get your lesson. Get your lesson. The idea that everything has to be perfect. We can't have any microaggressions. Microaggressions. I'm trying to deal with macroaggressions of prisons. And we telling young kids that they can't even deal with a microaggression without shutting the whole conference down, the whole office down. That's not how you win. Korean Americans face microaggressions every day, but they just say, well, that's their problem. We're going to keep making this money. We're going to keep building our businesses. We're going to keep going. We get stopped and triggered. I can't stand, I see a beautiful, I'll be on YouTube or Instagram, and I see a beautiful Black couple, beautiful brother, beautiful sister. They go into Walmart and some ugly, toothless, smelly, ignorant white person will call them the N-word. And then they just act like the world has come to an end and everybody has to react. Why do you care what this ugly, toothless, ignorant white person thinks about you? You're gonna ruin your whole day? That person's family can't stand them. They probably don't have a pot to piss in. If somebody called me the N-word, I say, well, it takes one to know one. I got stuff I'm trying to do. I'm not giving my day over to some crazy white person. You are the greatest community ever. And any white person can get you off your game. Any white person can ruin your whole week because they said something to you, one word to you. I don't understand it. So what I'll say to you is no excuses, just excellence. Whatever you're going through, however hard it is, it ain't as hard as what your mama and granddaddy and great grandpa went through. So quit crying and complaining and analyzing your grief. Get a good therapist, go to church. And other than that, what do you want? What do you want? If we get clear on that, at least we won't just be spinning. And since I'm over, I'm going to take 2 more minutes to tell you this. Because I see, so still got 53 people here. Look, God does not know one thing. There's one thing that God doesn't know. God doesn't know what God has created when God created human beings,
Hmm.
because he or she, wherever I'll say she just to keep everybody with me. God, when she made human beings, she gave us free will, which means that God created an exception to her own omniscience.
Mhm.
God created an exception to her own all-knowingness. Otherwise, we're just robots and puppets, and we're boring to God. So God said, I'm going to give one species in all creation free will, and I'm going to see who they are and what they do. And now in this century, we will announce to the universe what we are as a species. Are we a locust species? This is going to wipe out everything on the planet out of greed and ignorance? Or are we a honeybee species that can work with life to create more life and be a blessing in this universe? Even God doesn't know who and what we are. We will announce to the universe in this century what kind of species we are. Black people, Black wisdom, Black creativity, Black empathy, Black justice is critical to the resolution of that answer. We will help determine what God thinks of humanity in this century. The question is not, should humans have ever believed in God? No. The question is, should God have ever believed in humans? She ever believed that if we got godlike powers to change the weather, to change our genes, to create artificial intelligence and robots, if we ever got godlike powers, would we destroy or would we build? Would we destroy or would we create? So that is what's on the table for Black people. The fate of humanity, the fate of the species, the final conclusion of God's own experiment is in our hands. And what do? Cancel somebody because they talk to a Republican. That's the most ignorant shit. I don't get it. I believe in you. I believe in your divine destiny. The reason our people were stolen from Africa and put through hell here is so that in this moment, an ethical, excellent people could rise. In this moment,
Yes.
a genius people could rise. In this moment, something beautiful could come. God will turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's why you're here. And so when you say, oh, Van Jones is a sellout and blah, 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 just block those people on Twitter because they don't even respect you enough to tell you who you are and what you are here for and what God needs you to do. When you see me doing stuff that makes no sense to you, it makes no sense because I'm listening to God and I'm not listening to Black Twitter. I'm listening to my creator who wants me to be a co-creator with him or her on the plane of the universe. Are we going to send rocket ships around the world full of ignorant racists? Are we around the planet, around the universe, around the galaxy full of ignorant racists and biased, bigoted robots that want to colonize and conquer everybody they find? Are we going to spread this madness around the universe? Or are we going to send people to give aid and comfort and help the people and to learn and to respect creation? That's on you. Who do you think is going to ask those questions? Those companies, tweak those technologies. That's your job. It's your job. So look, please understand, I'm not scared of none of these people, white, Black, otherwise.
Yes.
I love you too much to be scared of them.
You have a mic? You want to drop it?
All right, that was 10 extra minutes. I hope I don't get fined.
Thank you so much, sir. This has been edifying, enlightening, inspiring, just amazing, seriously amazing. And I am so grateful that despite all that we had to get through to get you, you were God and you came and you more than delivered and you have given us something to do and not just to be, we need to do. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you. I will. I'm here if you need me. I appreciate you. I'm gonna go get some food. I'm hungry.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.